Goals galore in the UEFA Champions League, but none for the Americans yet. Two of MLS's best clubs clash tonight in Columbus, and we are moments away, hopefully, from Mauricio Pochettino's first United States men's national team roster. That and more on Wednesday's Morning Kickaround. Good morning. Welcome, one and all. Hopefully, everyone is feeling good this morning. This is Morning Kickaround up from the lower leagues. My name is Robert Kerr. Very happy to be up and broadcasting this morning with Mr. Jason Davis. How you doing?
That's me, Robert. Hair is looking mighty tall today. I appreciate that. You're coming in hard for the U.S. men's national team roster, putting on your game face and your game hair. I like it. I like it.
This is what happens to the dew on a nighttime shower.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, nobody needs to know that. You don't need to share that information with us. We can just move forward.
It's all about, like, I have a low, a medium, and a high, and we get high on hair with the nighttime shower. But those things aside, fantastic to be covering the world's game from everyone's favorite country this morning with you, sir. If you want to get a hold of the show out there, folks, at MKickaround on X and Instagram. And if you want to write us question, comment, concern, or otherwise, hit us up, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Lots to talk through, so let's hit those highlights. Let's kick some long balls. All right, heading into Wednesday, October 2nd.
Yeah, it's October, Robert. Get it right. It's October. It's T-minus 1 day before your friend over here turns another year older. I won't talk about it. You know, the gray gives me away, so we don't need to get into that. But yes, it is October.
Hopefully not more older and more colder.
No, older, cooler, definitely cooler. Every year I age, I get a little bit cooler, a little more suave, a little bit more debonair.
All right, so on the Wednesday morning, I don't even know how to address it. Debonair, I do like the word debonair.
Well, thank you.
You know,
I pulled that one out special.
You know what is not debonair is losing 7-1 on a Champions League day. So we are here on Wednesday morning. We're halfway through match day 2 for the UEFA Champions League. Tons of goals and blowouts on Tuesday and some intriguing matchups ahead here on Wednesday. Looking at that scoreboard, like I said, lots of lopsided ones on this page and the next. Salzburg losing to the best of the rest, Brest. Stuttgart 1-1. Arsenal getting a pretty resound victory over the now seemingly starless PSG. Barcelona roll the young boys, and Leverkusen get the one over Christian Pulisic and Milan. What's your takeaway from that group of games there, Mr. Davis?
Well, I mean, look, yes, Brest impressed, and Salzburg has been competitive in this competition on some level in the recent past, but
so no Jesse Marsh's Salzburg.
No, it's not even the Salzburg of 2 years ago, much less the Jesse Marsh Salzburg. But Brest was impressive. Stuttgart, that's a disappointing result for them at home against Sparta Prague. If they want to be in the round of 16, I think they needed a victory there. Arsenal, that's huge for them. No Martin Odegaard, we talked about that. PSG does have some star power, but not the Kylian Mbappe, Lionel Messi, Neymar level of star power anymore. Ousmane Dembele left back in Paris because of some sort of tiff with Luis Enrique, so that's certainly interesting. Barcelona, 5-0 over Young Boys. They looked good. Lewandowski, I mean, they were just humming. They've had a lot of injury issues, and yet they took care of their business as you would. I mean, look, and that's a bounce back for them, right, after what happened in Monaco. Leverkusen 1-0 over Milan. We're going to come back to that game because of the Pulisic factor. Leverkusen was the much better team. They deserved to win the game. There were a couple of big moments in that match, including a potential red card for a hand to the face from Tapsoba. There was also a penalty shout on Tammy Abraham going down in the box that was not given or apparently reviewed. Well, I imagine it was reviewed, but clearly not changed on the field. I don't know that Milan can really complain, however. And that's then the other games.
Oh,
These are the ones, right? Well, not again. 2-4, another 4-0, another 4-0. Inter beating Red Star, no surprise there. Man City taking care of Slovan Bratislava in Slovakia, probably no surprise there. Dortmund, Celtic feeling so good about themselves, Robert, after the last match day. And then this, you get I love talking about what is the number that represents humiliation in a soccer match. What's the number the other team needs to put up for you to feel like not only did you get beaten badly, you got humiliated? And 7 is certainly past that number. Certainly 7 is past that number.
I think once you're getting into 5 and beyond, 4 is a drubbing.
4 is dicey. 4 is like, yeah, that's pretty bad, but it's not embarrassing bad or humiliating bad.
Yeah, there's a game that can kind of get out of hand at the end, like maybe a late penalty puts it over to get it to 4. But 5, 6, 7, yeah, the game got out of control on you. An American involved in there, unfortunately, for the back line of the team that conceded 7.
Yes,
young Austin Trusty, not as young as I remembered. Austin Trusty, he is like 26 in his prime.
Yeah, he's not a young guy anymore. We wondered if this was the right move for him to go up north to Glasgow and play for Celtic. I don't know that the Dortmund result in the Champions League indicates it's a bad move for Austin Trusty. You know, I know there are defenders of Scottish football, but I don't think week to week that's the high enough level for a guy who wants to be a U.S. international. Of course, Cameron Carter-Vickers also plays there, and you know his place in the national team is kind of up in the air at this point with Mauricio Pochettino coming in. So, it's embarrassing to say the least.
Cameron Carter-Vickers is probably thankful that he was left out due to injury yesterday. I mean, I'm sure he wanted to play and probably would have had an impact, but is that
the mindset? The mindset is like, thank you, soccer gods, that I was unavailable to get humiliated by Dortmund.
I don't feel like that's an elite athlete sort of an approach to wish you weren't there. He was probably dying inside because he wasn't there to help. Is probably more likely the case.
Yes. But there's probably a little cloud over his head, and it was raining on him as he sat there, not dressed with the reserves or wherever he was at the Signal Iduna Park. A touchdown and an extra point for Dortmund in that game, and still celebrating up 7-1. I mean, I guess
they're in front of their 60, 70,000 fans. I'm sure it's easy to get hype when you score with Dortmund's fan base. And it's funny to think when you see the result here, there was a point in the first half here where this game was 1-1. And
yes, right.
It seemed like it was an actual legitimate contest. And then definitely wheels came rolling on off. And shout out to Emre Can, had a big role in here. It was one of my former favorites at Liverpool, and he's become quite the stalwart in Iraq and the experienced player in what is usually a young Dortmund team.
Well, I mean, and a guy at the same time who is maybe not the most beloved player at Dortmund, the most beloved guy in that locker room, and yet in that dressing room, and yet he, as you said, had himself a day. Everybody had themselves a day. I mean, if you didn't score, if you're a Dortmund player and you didn't score, you're feeling pretty low today because, man, everybody got in on it, right?
So what has Emre Can done to himself or done to his reputation out there?
I just think he's he is the guy who thinks he should be treated as the center of the team, and that does not. I mean, look, Mats Hummels famously last year, as Dortmund was making that Champions League run, said some pretty blunt things about Erden Terzic and his tactics. And look, they do have a new coach, right? They do have Nuri Sahin instead of Terzic, so maybe the vibes are different. I just, again, and there's also this thing. Okay, we make it about us. Morning Kickaround is an American soccer show, meaning we're Americans and we talk about soccer. That's how it's an American soccer show. And we're going to get focused in on some Americans here in a second. Giovanni Reyna was not ready to dress for that game against Celtic. So Shaheen is saying that he's close, but not back yet. And obviously with the international window coming up, interesting to ponder whether Gio will get called by Mauricio Pochettino or if they'll leave him back in Dortmund to continue to recover from his injury. But if Gio gets back healthy, Emre Can is one of those players who's going to be blocking him from getting more playing time. So get out of the way, Imre. You've had your moment. Stop it. Leave us alone. Let Gio play, is what I'm hoping.
Looking down the rest of the scores before we turn our full attention to the Americans, no real surprise. Manchester City getting the 4-0 result. Erling Haaland getting the third of the 4. He's just pretty much like has a rubber stamp on score sheets now.
Yeah, yes, and what he is now tied. I think he's tied with Alessandro Del Piero on the all-time scoring list in the Champions League. Now, like those guys are way behind the Ronaldos of the world. I mean, he needs to triple his output to reach Cristiano Ronaldo. But considering his age, considering the team he plays on, as long as he stays healthy, it's kind of hard to imagine he's not going to get there. And if you've already chased down one of the great goal scorers of his generation in the Champions League in particular, in Del Piero, what are we witnessing here from Erling Haaland? Like, it does feel like I have this too, right? Emotionally, it's hard to just sort of accept Haaland on his terms. Is he this good? We don't know. Like, oh, well, but he plays for City. Oh, but this, but that, but the other thing. He scores against weaker teams, those kind of stuff. Those things come into your mind sometimes, and people want to use them as cudgels against Haaland. But really, that's trying to just drag down a guy who is on a different planet. He is an alien. It's clear.
It seems that the only thing that could possibly hold him back from smashing every record is injury, or some sort of like he hit some sort of a skid of back-to-back, fitness things that keep him out of the lineup. But it seems like if he's in the team, he's going to be a major contributor and goal scorer. So any other things on yesterday's action? Probably move ahead to look into Wednesday as we're halfway through the match day 2 for the new Champions League. And before we get into this, I want to say, with this new format, do you agree with me that it's hard to know the gravity of these results and know the stakes of what a win or a loss really means? Because when it was the group stage and as we knew it, you could kind of understand, there's 6 matches, and if you win your first 3 or whatever, you're going to get, through to the next round, and you could kind of see which opponents that you needed to get the results, because it was, home and away the same teams. With watching it yesterday, I wasn't really like on the edge of my seat. I didn't really know what the stakes were. Are these big stakes games yet?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, obviously the big clubs versus some of the weaker clubs, and the score lines being the lopsided scores that they are, makes it feel like the games don't really matter yet. But we have had some matches between big teams. I mean, we have had City and Inter. Like that game has happened in the Champions League already. There's somebody who's done the math out there. I'm not a math guy. I don't do math, Robert. No math for me. But there's people who are out there who are telling you what the number is. 13 points should get you at least into the play-in round as a top 24 team. And I think it's I think it's 18 points, a little bit more than that will make sure that you're in the top 8. I got to look at the numbers. I'm kind of throwing these out there, but there are people who have done the math. The other takeaway from this round of the Champions League that I wanted to bring up is what I saw on X. This is a picture. It's a little bit. I'm sharing my screen, so it's a little far away. But this is apparently Erling Haaland and Jack Grealish arriving at the airport in Slovakia for this match against Slovan Bratislava. Same girl, both pictures, by the way. But
they make them very similar in there.
I mean, it's just like, first of all, these are the kind of women working at the airport in Slovakia. That's what we've got over there. And Erling Haaland, man, when I say he's an alien, I don't just mean like he's an alien on the field. I mean he is an alien. It's sort of in how he carries himself in the world.
I am not like you.
He's
am
a weird
different
cat.
level.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah. All right. So those were the games yesterday, as you were saying. You want to look at the schedule for today's matches again, as we are here ahead of the Champions League today. So here are the matches today. The first set. These are the first 9 games today. Anything stand out for you? I mean, I'm obviously wearing a jersey today to mark one of those matches, but go ahead.
I think that from a soccer hipster perspective, some of my favorite low-key teams are matching up against each other in the early rounds. I always like a good Shakhtar match, and Atalanta is always box office quality, in my opinion. So that might be worth a watch. But I have a handful of Aston Villa fans, and they're taking on Bayern Munich. And I'm sure supporters of Aston Villa, like, this is an absolutely gargantuan fixture for them to put that up. I mean, a couple of years ago, they probably couldn't have imagined that they'd have a Champions League matchup against Bayern.
No, of course not. In fact, I'm wearing this. I don't remember the last time I put this jersey on. I'm wearing an Aston Villa shirt right now. And I was given this shirt. This is like a lifetime ago. I was given this shirt for my 30th birthday. And my birthday is tomorrow. And I'm turning a little bit more than 30. You can probably. So I've had this. First of all, it fits very well. I just want to I want to give myself a little credit.
You're looking pretty sharp.
Fits perfectly. So I'm the same size I was when I was 30, which I think is a win for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't work this year on my weight. We don't have to get into it. But I think I got this shirt because at the time Brad Guzan was an Aston Villa player, and does that seem right? 15 years ago, Brad Guzan was playing for Aston Villa. That's crazy.
He moved over stateside to join Atlanta United. What was Atlanta United's first year? Like 17 or 18?
That was 17.
Like that?
Yeah, that was 17.
So it's at least 7-8 years ago.
Let me just. I want to make sure.
But he was there for a long time. But he was there for a long time, and I think actually his last stand was at Middlesbrough. So there's a couple years before.
Well, here you go. I turned 30 in 2009.
Hey,
and he was at Villa. He got to Villa in 2008. So this is definitely. I had this shirt because there was an American at Villa. I was like, there's an American. What team am I going to support in the Premier League? There's an American at Villa. I'll be a Villa fan. And I think my family, what do you want for your birthday? I don't know. I guess an Aston Villa shirt. And they went out and got, Villa fans will remember this shirt. This is definitely old school. It says Acorns on it as a jersey sponsor. But yeah, massive thing for them to have a home game in the European Cup / Champions League against Bayern Munich. And I think the timeline on the last time Villa hosted a European Cup game at Villa Park is 1983. I believe it's 1983, the last time they did this. So, I was alive, but I wasn't really aware of the world. So it's been that long. It's been that long, Robert. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Shout out to all the Villa fans and the supporters, because that's a big one for them, certainly a generational moment. Lille, Real Madrid. My eye is on Liverpool, Bologna. Bologna not started the Serie A season how they played last year.
Juve stole their manager. That's why that happened. Well, I mean, part of it, right?
Yeah, and they were a fifth place team. Thanks to coefficient, the Italian fifth place team got in. So Bologna in against Liverpool. I mean, surprises happen, but I gotta think that Arne Slot's men will take care of business. Leipzig, Juventus. Leipzig, I'm not quite sure what they're up to. How have they looked so far this year?
They're the first team to beat Bayer Leverkusen in the league in forever, because Bayer Leverkusen did not lose in the league last season. And Leipzig kind of took them behind the woodshed a little bit a couple weeks back. So this is a solid team. I mean, I don't know if this is the team everybody thinks is going to break the trophy drought for Leipzig, because that's obviously the goal for this project. Everybody loves that word, right? It's a project. and everybody, of course, German football fans don't like RB Leipzig. What is Rasen Sport Ball or whatever it is anyway? What is that? That's not a thing. Rasen Ball Sport. Let me get it right. Rasen Ball Sport. What is that? That's not a thing. That's a made up thing so you can put RB in front of Leipzig. But they're a good team, and it's interesting. Marco Rosa, formerly of Dortmund and a number of other places, obviously, is their manager and has done a pretty damn good job. I think they have I think there are favorites here against Juve. I don't think there's any other way to look at that, Robert. And we're hoping, of course, that our man Weston McKennie gets a chance to play this afternoon. And remind us that he is a major part of Thiago Motta's program there at Juve. I mean, this is the roller coaster we were on with Weston, right? Like, oh my God, another new manager doesn't want him. He doesn't have a contract. What's going to happen? He's being shopped around. I think Villa might have even been interested at one point. Then the contract gets signed, and now their sporting director is like, oh yeah, we were always we always had Weston in mind for our team. It was just about the contract. And once we got it done, because the thing about you have to remember about Juve is that while they're a massive club with massive history, they're still a club that's kind of watching their budget a little bit. And if Weston was asking for a significant pay rise over what he was making before, Juve was going to hold firm, and he could have pushed his way out the door and went and got more money somewhere else. But I think he wanted to be at Juve. I think he likes it there. We know he's made a romantic connection in the north of Italy. So, yeah, all those things are part of this.
So you're saying Mata is pretending like he had him in his mind the whole time when they famously took away his player parking spot? Were they just restriping the lot? I mean, and that wasn't real?
I just think it's standard operating procedure. I mean, it's a cold, calculated business, right? There's no room for sentiment when it's like, well, if we can't sign you to the number that we can afford to pay you, and we're drawing a line in the sand. This is the number, and if you don't want that contract, well, then you're not part of our team, and we have to move on, and we can't mess around with, no. I think Weston McKennie is a very good soccer player. I think he has a lot of utility in a number of areas on the field. I think Thiago Motta is a very smart manager and realized that, and it was just about the business aspects of it. And what is Motta going to say publicly? Yeah, I really want Weston McKennie. That damages Juve's leverage as they go into those contract negotiations with the kid.
So it was a difficult match day for Americans on the Tuesday. So I guess is the American hope of Wednesday is kind of pinned on Weston McKennie getting some minutes, because kind of in review for long ball number 2, Americans, the performances we talked a little bit. Austin Trusty, he was in the lineup for Celtic team that shipped 7, and Pulisic played against a very difficult team in Leverkusen, a team not easily beaten, obviously. Only 2 losses in the last, year and a half or so.
Yeah.
And here's a look at Pulisic's performance.
These are FOTMob numbers, just to be clear. I didn't credit FOTMob with that, but these are FOTMob numbers. Accurate passes. By the way, one of those passes should have probably been at least a better shot on target because he set up Reinders perfectly and did not get rewarded for the pass. Expected goals, very limited. Expected goals on target, expected assists, all small numbers. Shot accuracy, took 1 shot, put it on target. Obviously didn't go in the net. 48 touches is a pretty good number for him on the day. Like, it's really tough to judge this because overall Milan was sort of, I like to say, played off the park, but overall Milan was clearly the weaker team. Leverkusen was better. They were at home. They are sharp with the way that they play, the way they build out, beating press. Early in that match, I'm watching it, and I got a little frustrated because I'm pulling for Milan. I have nothing against Leverkusen, obviously, and Xabi Alonso is a phenom as a manager. But I was thinking Milan needed to make a decision. They had Leverkusen, I don't remember, the ball had turned over or something after a Milan attack. Leverkusen had the ball deep in their own defensive end of the field, basically on the touchline in the corner. Milan had 4 attacking players who were pushed up. There was an opportunity to close Leverkusen down and press, and they kind of half pressed. And it allowed Leverkusen to play out, and next thing you know, Leverkusen's on the break. Now, it didn't end up in a chance and a goal in that moment, but it was like, does Milan have a clear idea of whether they want to try to press Leverkusen into mistakes, regain possession, and create their own opportunities in the attacking half of the field? Or, if you don't want to do that, fine, then retreat, get back to your rest defense positions so that you don't have Leverkusen coming down your throat. And I didn't seem to me like Milan was on the same page with that. And it was brilliant to watch Leverkusen do what they do, which is not just the way that they flood the zone with players in certain parts of the field, but the way that they stretch you out, go side to side with those wingbacks. I mean, it was easy work for them to pull Milan apart. It just ended up in the single goal from Boniface, and it could have been worse.
Do you think that's, coaching? I mean, Xabi Alonso obviously has his guys know exactly what they want to do at all times. Do you think that, and there's still a little bit of a question mark over the Milan manager?
Yeah, I mean, look, Fonseca got the win over Inter. That was huge. That bought him some time. I do think that, there's about a month worth of games that are going to determine whether Fonseca can hold on to that job. I don't think he's quite off the hot seat yet, and that's something to keep in mind with Christian Pulisic and his future at the club. He's already established himself, I think, as their best player, certainly in the attack. And really, their issues are in midfield, and their issues are at the back. Their issues aren't really in the attacking end of the field, although Rafael Leao was frustrating again in a number of ways. But this is the thing about Milan. They sort of rely less on a bunch of combination stuff and more on individual success. Leao is a 1v1 player. Pulisic is kind of a 1v1 player. If you get those guys isolated and they can beat their defender, they can make things happen, either with a pass to a teammate or with a shot. Alvaro Morata and Tammy Abraham were okay. Had good moments, I think. There was talk about how they help with the press because they both push themselves. They push each other to be better defenders from the front. But it didn't really come out in the way that Milan played yesterday against Leverkusen. I think Milan is just limited, right? I just think they're limited, especially because of their midfield.
To round out Tuesday's Americans in Champions League action, Ricardo Pepi and Malik Tillman both saw action in the 1-1 draw. What was that matchup? Eindhoven versus Sporting, the Portuguese side. Pepi, really just got in an injury time at the end. Not much to speak of. Malik Tillman played the full 90.
Yeah, look, Malik Tillman's a good player. He's already established himself. Excuse me. Wow, as a clear starter for Peter Bosch. He plays much better for PSV Eindhoven than he does for the U.S. men's national team, which is a little bit of a frustration for me. But I really don't know what to say about him. What I'll say overall is that PSV will be disappointed that they only got a point from this game. That they should have won that match, and they gave up a late equalizer when they had just had an opportunity on the other side by Bakayoko. Should have probably gotten a shot on goal, probably should have scored. Pepi only getting garbage time minutes. Man, that's frustrating. And I know Bosch had some comments just this past week about how it was unfortunate in that very blunt Dutch way. It's unfortunate that Pepi is behind, and I think it's a translation thing. He said, I think he called De Jong a phenom, but that basically just means that De Jong is the kind of player you can't take out of the lineup because he scores a ton of goals. Oh, and by the way, he's PSV's captain. So how are you going to dislodge the captain when you are Ricardo Pepi? Whether or not, and he's still 21. Let's just keep that in mind. Ricardo Pepi's still 21. Whether or not he needs to leave the club is hard for me because he's thrived there when he has played. He's scored goals when he has played. If we talk about him leaving, what does that look like? Because no big club who's going to give him a ton of service is going to come in for him right now. And the only other option is for him to go to another club like Augsburg, where chances are few and far between, and he gets frustrated and maybe gets dropped again for a club that's in a relegation fight. I mean, I don't know what the right solution is for Ricardo Pepi right now.
Yeah, he's in that bubble. He's either going to be the man on a struggling team or a bubble player on a good team. It's kind of a tricky place to play. What is better for development, being in amongst the winner or gritting it out? We'll see how that goes. And looking forward to Wednesday of action of Champions League and other things. So I think we'll wrap up today's long balls, and then mentally we'll come back home over the Atlantic, come domestically, and bring up today's hot topic. So good. We had to see it twice. Wednesday's hot topic, a Eastern Conference playoff preview in the MLS. Inter Miami and the Messi Show comes to Columbus, Ohio this evening.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Robert, for you, do you think these are clearly the two best teams in Major League Soccer?
I do think so. I have had the opportunity to see Columbus in person a couple times, and the way they play is incredibly exciting and just like a whole new take on kind of the way an MLS team approaches the league. Wilfred Nancy has kind of, overhauled it, put it in his image. He doesn't really play in the same manner. And even coaches like Tata Martino have admitted, this is a completely new approach. The one challenge for Columbus is, can they keep a coach of his caliber? And will Wilfred Nancy's approach of kind of, it's almost like a total football. Like, they are incredibly disciplined with their rotation. They don't necessarily have dedicated defensive players. The players they play on the back line aren't classical, center backs and fullbacks. And you'll see, Cucho Hernandez, their star forward, come back and fill in the back if a player's gone up in the forward position. They are organized in a different way than I've seen any MLS team. Well, and then on the other side of the ball, Inter Miami has obviously the biggest star power across the board, or at least at the top end of the roster, and it's been never seen. And they're in the supporters shield driver's seat. So it's really hard. I mean, obviously there's a couple good teams like LAFC and the Galaxy on the West, but it's really hard to argue that these aren't the best two.
Yeah, a couple of things. You mentioned whether or not Columbus can hold on to Wilfred Nancy. And there are, I think it's Matt Doyle and Tom Bogert are both out there saying that they think Chris Henderson is going to leave Miami to go be Atlanta United's new general manager next season. Of course, Atlanta United fired Carlos Bocanegra, and the guy in charge there is somebody Chris Henderson knows very well, Garth Lagerwey. They work together in Seattle. So there's something of a last hurrah kind of vibe. Obviously for Columbus, they have been champions under Wilfred Nancy. This is chasing another one of those. For Miami, last year was the Leagues Cup, an Open Cup final. They want to win an MLS Cup title. They have in their sights the Supporter Shield, which, as much as those European players in particular might value that, they also know that the real measure of a season in Major League Soccer is the MLS Cup title. I think if you are Columbus, if you're a fan of Columbus or you're a fan of Inter Miami, you worry about those things when they come. I mean, don't be thinking about Wilfred Nancy leaving until he says au revoir and leaves. He's still the manager, the coach of Columbus, and he's done a great job. In terms of what you said about the way the Crew play, yes to all of that, but we have seen moments where this team has been pulled apart. LAFC, there are teams in this league that can victimize Columbus if they send numbers forward and get caught without numbers in certain areas of the field in order to slow down a counterattack. So it's there, right? Whether or not Inter Miami is the kind of team that can take advantage of that, different question, because what does Inter Miami want to do? They want to have the ball. They want to set up Lionel Messi to be pulling strings or scoring goals like the one he just did this past weekend. They, of course, are also on a run of, 3 straight draws for Inter Miami? Do I have that right? As the things kind of loom, as the Supporters Shield is just there beyond reach for the moment. And then, obviously, we're talking about the playoffs, and you don't want to be thinking ahead to the MLS Cup playoffs, because if you don't take care of your business now, you won't have momentum going into the playoffs to start with. So, I mean, these teams have maybe less to play for than a lot of the other teams down the stretch. And yet, because I think they'll see each other as the chief rival for the Eastern Conference title, it should be intense. It should be fun. We should see the best these teams have to offer.
I can confirm, yes, Miami on the back of 3 straight draws, Atlanta, NYCFC, and then Charlotte at the weekend. So not in raring hot form. And just one more point about the Columbus style of play. I was there at the Leagues Cup final against LAFC, and their bravery with the ball is super exciting to see.
Yeah,
Obviously, it can cost them when it doesn't come off right. But in the game that I saw against LAFC in that Leagues Cup final, they never got punished for that. And even in the toughest situations, they're still trying to play and pass the ball, and did it very cleverly. And win, lose, or draw, they are an exciting watch. That match tonight at 7:45 at the classically named lower.com field.
It's the Campeones Cup final that I'm remembering, where Davila scores the opener for Club America, and that came on a breakaway because Columbus basically got they were in possession, but they turned the ball over in the wrong part of the field and got caught out. And obviously that's the risk that you take playing the way that Columbus does. And I would rather have teams do that than not from an entertainment perspective. I mean, clearly,
Yeah.
and as you said, on balance, it has been massively successful for the Columbus Crew. And you have to imagine that if not for the Champions Cup campaign and some of the other things that have come up for them this season, and they sold one of their most important players from last year,
Yeah.
right? They sold a key midfielder named Morris, and yet have still managed to stay at a very high level. If they hadn't had that and the Campeones Cup and the Champions Cup and all these other things, who knows if they might be challenging Miami for the Supporters Shield. As it is, they are 8 points back, and they're not. I don't expect them to close that gap, even if Miami can't clinch the Supporters Shield tonight with a victory over Columbus.
And it speaks to the volume of their success that Columbus is in so many competitions and finals. And kind of just flipping over and looking at the table, the MLS season, for those unfamiliar, ends in 3 weeks. October 19th is the Super Saturday, the
Decision Day. You have to say it like that, Robert. Decision Day.
Decision Day.
Okay, sure, like that, like Mickey Mouse. Yeah, exactly. That's how they want you to say it. That's how Major League Soccer wants you to say it. Decision Day. All right.
With just a few games remaining, Inter Miami at the top, followed by Columbus and Cincinnati, just 1 point behind Columbus. And that top three in the East, really a step above. It's a 10-point drop off behind Cincinnati to Orlando and NYCFC.
Let's do this very quickly, Robert. Let's do a quick power rankings for Major League Soccer, because Miami's got 3 games left, including tonight. Columbus has 4, including tonight. Everybody's on 30, 31 games played. A couple of teams. I think Toronto is on 32. Sporting's on 32. We don't expect Sporting to be threatening for anything. But give me a top 5. What's your power rankings right now in Major League Soccer if we had to give our top 5 teams?
So I would go, should I go 5 up to 1 or 1
if you
down?
want to do it that way? You want to build up to no, I think it's probably 1 to 5 is the best way to do this, because I don't know if I could hold those in my head. There's 29 teams in Major League Soccer, right? There's a lot of teams.
All right, so my top 5, Inter Miami, very closely followed by Columbus. Then I go the LA teams.
What order on the LA teams? Separated by 6 points. It's a gap. I mean, LAFC has a game in hand on the Galaxy. Who's better right now? Because I think it's very, very close. They play different. They play very different soccer, which is part of the intrigue there in Los Angeles.
I am going to go with LAFC purely on familiarity, because in all fairness, I haven't gotten to see very many Galaxy games. So my tops are Inter Miami, Columbus, LAFC, LA Galaxy, and then those guys from Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, number 5. Okay. I mean, so what I think is interesting about that is that you don't see anybody, and LAFC and Salt Lake are both, Real Salt Lake are tied on points right now. Again, LAFC with a game in hand on Real Salt Lake. So both on 52 points. It's conceivable that LAFC will pull ahead. Probably, I would not say likely, but conceivable. But you see a significant gap between the LA teams and the rest of the West. Real Salt Lake, Colorado, Seattle, Houston, Vancouver, even. You see a significant gap.
In my mind, I feel like the West is kind of all bunched up. I don't know if there is that many standout teams in the West, in my opinion, to be honest. The West is harder to choose from.
I think I would have... It seems like a coin flip for me, Inter Miami and Columbus. I like Columbus better. I think they're tested. I know Lionel Messi plays on that other side. But I'm going to put Columbus number 1. I know that the Supporter Shield race does not indicate that, but I think Columbus is the best team in the league. Inter Miami at number 2, and it's close. It's very, 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 very close. I will say Galaxy 3. LAFC, their form was not good until that most recent win over Cincinnati, and they did that in Cincinnati. I might have Cincinnati, despite that loss. I might have them number 4, and then LAFC number 5. There's something about LAFC I'm not liking at the moment.
Despite their Open Cup win, you're still doubting them in those tough pressure moments here?
Yeah, there's just something. The Open Cup that's sporting. I mean, you're supposed to beat Sporting on your home patch in 2024. I mean, I give a lot of respect to Peter Vermees and the flat top, but either time has passed him by or Sporting's just not spending enough money to be competitive. They're having a terrible season. That doesn't say anything. Winning a trophy is nice for LAFC, and congratulations to them, but that has no bearing on what I think about their chances to win an MLS Cup title. And I think the Galaxy have leapt over them in terms of pure quality in the league. And I know we had the recent result 4-2 Galaxy win over LAFC as an indicator maybe of that fact.
Looking at the other end of the playoff race, the bubble side, the teams looking to pick up some points here before the end of the season, try to sneak in there in those 8th and 9th spots.
Yeah.
There is a big, starting with the East, there is a big clump of teams all within, a handful of results. Toronto and Philadelphia and Montreal all on 37 and 8th through 10th place. Atlanta and DC United just 3 points behind them.
Yeah, here's a fascinating thing. This is so very MLS, right? Toronto FC is in 8th place right now in the Eastern Conference, so they would be in the playoffs. They would have to play the 9th place team, right? The 8-9 game is a thing. So, but technically, they'd be in the playoffs. They would play Philadelphia if the season ended today. Philadelphia could slip. I mean, it's possible. They've had a decent run of form and pulled themselves into that 9th playoff spot. Look at that goal difference. Toronto FC's -17 on the season, and yet here they are, at least with a decent shout at a playoff spot. That is so very Major League Soccer. I don't know if you want to think of it as a bad thing necessarily, but to score 39 goals in 32 games all year and somehow have a chance to make the playoffs is, I don't know if that means John Herdman's done a good job with bad tools or if they're just a bad team who have gotten lucky a few more times than some of their competitors for these spots. I will say, Montreal has always been a mystery. There's been some sounds of discontent coming from Quebec recently. Players maybe saying, hey, I don't want to come back if Laurent Courtois is the manager next year. That's out there. They're never drama-free in Montreal. And then Atlanta United, what a wacky, weird, ugly, gross, disgusting, I mean, those are the same words, disappointing season for the Atlanta United faithful. They want to find a head coach. If they make the playoffs this year, it's going to feel like they didn't deserve it, first of all. I know they probably want to make the playoffs. All the fans, you can't say, well, we don't want to make the playoffs, but I don't know that really changes anything for them. They're not going very far. They're not very good. And I wonder if Troy Lesesne is coaching for his job the last 3 matches of the season. If he doesn't make the playoffs, if DC will be out again looking for a new head coach. And I like Troy Lesesne as a person. It just hasn't worked despite having the Golden Boot leader in Christian Benteke. And then you want to set up the West for us? We should probably talk about them too.
Heading out west, the bubble region out there, not quite as close as the East, but Vancouver, Minnesota, and Portland occupying the final 3 spots of the 7, 8, 9, only separated by 2 points. But down to that 10th spot, the out of playoff spot is Dallas, 7 points behind, Austin behind them. So not quite as tight on the bubble in the West with Dallas and Austin and St. Louis trying to scrap to catch the Portlands and the Minnesotas.
Yeah, the West is a little different. I think we do see like a difference in quality. I mean, clearly the Galaxy are very good. LAFC on their best day are very good, even if I have some doubts about them right now. Real Salt Lake always feels like they're flattering to deceive, and yet they've scored 62 goals this year. Like that output in 31 matches says that they are somebody to be reckoned with in the Western Conference. It's not all smoke and mirrors with Real Salt Lake. Clearly, you've got to give Chris Armas a ton of credit for what he's done in Colorado. They made the big signings, Zach Steffen and Georgi Mihalovic, but to pull themselves back into the conversation. And then the fight for the last couple of spots. I mean, because the gap between Portland and Dallas is so large, the intrigue, as you said, is lacking out there. And instead of can somebody chase down Portland and Minnesota for that last playoff spot? What we're talking about is just whether the positioning is going to remain the same. And then do we have, I mean, Dallas is hunting for a coach. And I know that there's been reports, Tom Bogert saying that Peter Lucchini is going to be the main candidate for that job, even if they haven't made that decision yet. I just saw on the internet, I think yesterday, that people are renting those sign trucks, with the big LED signs on the side. It says "Wolf Out" in Austin, so they're not feeling too good about their situation.
They're channeling their Wenger out airplane signs.
It is the modern version of that. And then obviously St. Louis has already fired their coach. I've talked about Peter Vermees a little bit. He's an institution. He's the furniture in Kansas City. It's hard to imagine them dumping him, but if they miss out on the playoffs by this amount again, ouch. And then, obviously San Jose is a tire fire. We didn't talk about the bottom teams in the East, but there is a race for the worst run club in Major League Soccer right now. Maybe San Jose, already wooden spoon winners for 2024, get that label as the worst run club in Major League Soccer. But man, it's not like we're lacking for candidates.
Yeah, just a deeper dive on San Jose here. Conceding 72 goals and only scoring 37, a negative 35 goal difference, already wooden spoon with, about a month to go. That's just kind of an unreal, terrible season.
It's pretty bad. And, it dovetails very nicely with what's going on with the Oakland A's as they just played their final game at the Oakland Coliseum, and now we'll go play in a minor league baseball stadium in Sacramento, California. And nothing against Sacramento. I was born in Sacramento, so shout out Sacktown. But that's not where they should be playing Major League Baseball games. And the reason they're doing that is because they have a terrible owner that everybody hates. And oh, guess what? He also owns the San Jose Earthquakes. So that's fun. That's nice for us Major League Soccer fans. San Jose being this bad is sad. I always said the biggest waste in MLS is clearly the Chicago Fire. But it's sad that San Jose, who does have a rich history, was already moved once, right? Back in the team that left San Jose to go to Houston, then they rebooted San Jose, and now here we are again with a terribly run, absolutely moribund franchise that can't seem to get out of its own way.
Interesting that you referenced Chicago Fire. They at least have 12 more points, but they have scored only 37 goals, exactly in common with the San Jose Earthquakes. And going back to the Oakland A's thing, how unreal is that they are ripping out one of the marquee franchises in a sport and then not having a better alternative to go to?
I mean, yeah, this is the fact. I mean, this is not a baseball show, obviously, but because of the shared ownership with John Fisher, the fact that the rest of Major League Baseball's owners are just kind of looking the other way. Oh, well, nothing's happened. I don't see anything. The fact that that's going on is ridiculous, disgusting. And, it doesn't make you feel good. It does kind of bring up the trauma, if you will, over the Crew situation a couple years back. And I know Crew fans are not necessarily feeling terribly about the way Austin and their season is going right now and all of that. But and there's pictures. Austin fans are really losing it down there. And it's like, well, look at who your owner is. The guy that tried to steal the Columbus Crew out of Columbus. And, it's like, can owners stop misbehaving, please? Can they stop being complete and total jerks?
Yeah, comeuppance is a bit of a bitter pill, isn't it? Reaping what we've sown, and being the victim of the guy who already did that to another group of people. Who knows? I mean, not moving or whatever, but not necessarily being the top tier owner that they'd want. But I do gotta say, respect to the passion of Austin fans for having the gumption and the caring to buy a billboard truck and protest the team.
If you're willing to put your own money into a campaign to get the manager fired, it shows some sort of passion. It shows a level of passion. That's absolutely true. You care a lot, and good on you, Austin fans. I guess.
You guess. Well, I think that probably wraps up our look at the MLS playoff picture for now. I'm going to try to find a way to stream that Inter versus Columbus game because that should be exciting this evening. If you want to contact the show at Kickaround on X and Instagram, and if you want to write us a note, hit us up morningkickaround@gmail.com.
Please like and subscribe and as well, because obviously that's how we're going to get this thing like truly off the ground and give us an opportunity to grow the show, get guests, which is something we want to do more features, all that kind of stuff, deliver more content to you. If you are watching us for the first time, thank you for doing that, first of all.
Yeah.
And like I said, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I think we did. What did I say, Robert? I wanted to get to 200 by the end of the week and 50,000 by the end of the year. Totally normal goals, totally within reason. Those goals that I've set for us. We are at 154 on the subscribers, so we're inching our way. I think we've done pretty well, but we're inching our way towards 200. If the other thing that people need to do is tell somebody that Morning Kick Around is a thing, because word of mouth is the most powerful advertisement that is out there. And as we do this, as we start, that's the only way that we're going to grow the show, is if you tell somebody, a soccer fan, that there's a morning show that they can listen to or watch. And hopefully, even if you can't watch us live, you'll go back and watch the videos that we're posting on the channel. It's another reason to subscribe.
Yeah, this is really like kind of pushing, a brand new project out into the water. We're adding about 10 subscribers a day, 100 a week. And so if we're at 200 by the end of the week, that if 100 a week, that does equal 50,000 by Christmas time, I think.
Totally. That math totally checks out. I mean, I'm not going to double check you there, Robert. I have no idea if that's accurate or not, because my brain doesn't work that. But I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's right. 50,000 by the end of 2024. It's doable. It's doable.
Shout out to the commenters, Harry in San Antonio. Thanks for tuning in. I think Harry has commented on each video we've put up on each show. So thank you. Brooks Lambier from the Metro Detroit area added some 2 cents. He feels Wilfred Nancy the best coach in MLS hands down, and doesn't think that Gio Reyna is maybe not good enough to get significant minutes in the Dortmund side. And then our friend Nut must be on the West Coast, because he is saying that he woke up at 6:30 to stream us this morning.
Are we sure that's not Newt? I think it's Newt, not Nut. We're going to have to clarify. I think it's Newt. I think the K makes it Newt, Robert. I'm pretty sure about that.
It depends on your translation, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Newt dropping, didn't even notice he dropped the F-bomb. Yeah, that is too early. You're right, Newt. I'm sorry for you on the West Coast. Again, you can watch us back. If you missed the show, you can watch us back on the channel. You don't have to watch us live, although live is great and live is fun. I'm trying to, and just, we'll pull back the curtain a little bit. Obviously, some of you might know me from other. I sound like the character from The Simpsons. What's his name?
From other soccer, Troy McClure. You might know him from other soccer programs.
I'm Jason Davis. You might know me from things like The Best Soccer Show, Soccer Morning, When Alda Talks Football, The United States of Soccer, things I've written on the internet. But obviously, Soccer Morning was an incredible thing for me in my career back in the day, 2013 to 2016. I think we ran that show. If you remember that show, we're trying to recapture some of that magic here. Obviously, Robert co-hosting with me makes it a little bit of a different vibe, but I dig that. Again, we want to make this show as good as possible. We want to just make this a little bit of a behind-the-scenes chat. One thing that Robert and I are trying to do is maybe shine a spotlight on some places around American soccer and the geography of the country that people don't talk about, or help you and us learn things together about certain places in the United States. We want to do a lot of big picture conversations about the state of American soccer, stuff that some of you will know I'm very into and has kind of been my bread and butter for a long time. So that should be coming up. Robert, are we going to talk about pro rel? Are we going to talk about promotion or relegation?
I think eventually we will. And I was actually tempted to bring that up when we were talking about the Chicago fire and the San Jose earthquakes. That the pro rel beacon was flashing in the back of my brain.
Well,
Um,
look, after the comments from Oliver Mintzlaff, who is the sporting director of everything Red Bull. He's the guy that used to run Leipzig, and now I think he's just over the entire Red Bull soccer program, football family.
mhm.
He basically said, "Oh, soccer in America isn't where it should be. It should be bigger. We're not seeing the returns, but we're going to invest in an academy in New York or in New Jersey." And I know Red Bull fans are mostly saying, "Hey, you wouldn't be saying this about MLS if you actually invested in your team enough to keep up with the Joneses."
Yeah.
But it is, that is an interesting part of where we are because some other people use the opportunity from Mintzlaff's comments to say, well, if we had promotion and relegation, then Red Bull wouldn't be able to be so lackadaisical in their approach in New Jersey. They'd be forced to do more aggressive things because you don't want to go down. And these topics are certainly out there. I mean, whether or not promotion relegation can come to America anytime soon is different than whether we want it or it would be a good thing. Those are separate questions that, yeah, let's wrestle with. It's like wrestling crocodiles. Let's go for it. Alligators. Let's go.
I'm really excited. I mean, a big reason why we have partnered up here is we did want to shed light on all the different areas and kind of the hidden, untold stories of soccer in different cities, and especially cities that don't have MLS clubs there now that are a little bit forgotten in the big picture view, but plenty of going on. And then also a topic is American soccer is weird. We are going to
Yes.
dive into
Yes.
that and
Yes.
just
Can we
the
can we
college system and
crowdsource?
all the what's up?
Can we crowdsource right now?
Yeah,
I know there's only a handful of people watching because we're still in the early days and not many people know we're here. Which again, tell somebody, please tell somebody. Actually, if you want to give me somebody's name and phone number or email address, I'll personally ask them to watch the show. If that's something that would help, I'm happy to reach out. I'll call people. Let's go. Let's do a phone bank. Jason Davis calls people to say, please watch soccer morning kick around. Uh, but what I was going to say is, if you have a weird story about American soccer, look, weird means a big tent. Weird is a general label. It doesn't have to be something embarrassing about American soccer and just be a fun story, but something that makes American soccer unique. Because one thing Robert and I have in common is that we love the unique nature of American soccer. We love that American soccer is not like soccer in the rest of the world. Sometimes that might hold us back, but sometimes it's something to be celebrated. So if you have a weird story, something you would throw under that general category, and you want to share it with us, again, hit us up at morningkickaround at gmail.com for the email address. And again, social media, mkickaround X and Instagram. Follow us on X as well and share those things, and we'll bring them to the table. And hopefully, again, we'll get some people who are involved in those stories, and we'll get people who know about these soccer towns and can talk about the culture in a given place. I think that stuff should be very fun on Morning Kick Around.
an example of a bit of history I'd love to dig up. I mean, for example, one of the cities I want to look at for soccer history was Las Vegas. And did you know for 1 year in 1979 there was a team called the Las Vegas Seagulls?
I did not know that. I did not know that. I do recall that there was a moment when I want to say there was a team that was going to be called something like the Las Vegas Gamblers or something ridiculous, something that was like a little too on the nose. I may have to look that up, like Mafia FC or something weird like that. Maybe that's wrong. I think that's probably wrong, but that'd be funny. Yeah, casino like vibes from a Las Vegas team. And speaking of Aston Villa, wasn't there a moment when the owner of Aston Villa, the same guy who has a part of the Milwaukee Bucks, I think, they were talking about expanding to Vegas, and there was a trademark already filed for Las Vegas Villains, which,
Ooh.
as far as names go, how do you do better than the Las Vegas Villains on a couple of different levels? The Aston Villa connection and, It's Vegas. It's Vegas, baby. Vegas.
All right, so that probably does it for our show. Plenty of soccer still to come today. I mean, Mauricio Pochettino's first roster for the United States men's national team is going to drop at any moment, followed by a press conference at 11:30, and then a full slate of Champions League games and MLS games. So wonderful time to be talking soccer.
All right, there you go. Yeah, thanks, Robert. Thank you, guys. See you later. Bye.